Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. Don't know what number it is. We always get lost, but I say a number and it's probably 20 out. So whatever episode it is, we are super pleased that you are joining us. Steve, it is good to see you, my friend. And straight away, we have got a guest in the studio. And this person, we're pretty excited about this. I met him a few weeks ago on a recommendation of a good friend of the podcast, the wonderful Mr. Alan Tang from Collab. And he said, I think you need to speak to Ben from Recess. And I was like, okay, let's speak to Ben. If any friend of Alan's, hopefully he's a friend of mine. So let's have a conversation. And just to give context, as soon as I had a conversation with our guest today, I was supposed to be going to sleep and didn't sleep for 2 or 3 hours, thinking about the excitement of what this, and I'm so excited to be able to bring this to the audience. And actually, if you are listening to this, you may well want to go into the video option, whether that is on Spotify or on YouTube, because we are going to dive into what Ben's doing and the cool stuff he's doing. So, Steve, it's good to see you, mate. But I don't really want to speak to you. I've spoken to you for loads, so I don't care what you have to say. So, Ben Summers, tell us a little bit about you and and where you're from, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, check it out because we're going to screen share and show you around the product. So if you're into education and you're thinking about cool stuff for your kids, you'll be able to get a little preview as we go through. But yeah, background. No, I'm super excited to be here and started this company a little over a year ago. And the goal is to put every kid in the driver's seat of their own education and to give every human a sense of purpose, or to help them find their own sense of purpose. That's kind of the ultimate stage of life when you feel like you're really working towards something and your life has a lot of meaning. And so we try and build an education system that puts kids in the driver's seat and helps them develop that and learn how to build their own purpose. And yeah, excited to show it off and be building it.
Should we dive in? Should we dive right in and then scroll back after we've seen it? Do you want to?
You want me to take you right in the product right away?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see it, and then let's talk about once we've shown everybody. Let's then go. What was that purpose? How did we get to that point? And let's unravel it from. But let's start let's go to the finish line, and then let's come back from it.
No, I think that's a great idea. Epic. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share right now. So the thing I'm about to show you, you'll see a bunch of different software tools. The way I describe Recess, and it's a little bit aspirational, is a civilization for kids. And that's our goal, right? Is we think the best education possible is when you are immersed in a reality that mimics real reality, like a mirror one, where you can actually act and operate as a full-fledged citizen and get a lot of rights and do some cool stuff. So anyways, that's kind of a crazy pitch, but the first part of that is a feed. And right now I've met a lot of the people that I know for work through feeds, and I find content that I'm really interested in. So you'll see posts from this, this is a physics teacher posting, today in Intro to Physics, we're going to be continuing our lessons on thermodynamics and learning about heat engines. And then she posts Crazy Rocket Man, this insane guy that's got that threw together his own cart. And so kids will come in here and like this and see this. And this is how they find out about new topics, new courses, new things they can do. They can comment to meet each other through this. And it's a totally safe walled garden with really good moderation tech. So when they see cool posts or they see someone that they like, they can reach out to them and get to know them and become friends with them. And then on the left, you'll see this chat. So you might think that Ian's really cool, or some kid through his platform is really cool, and actually go ahead and add them as a friend. And then you can start DMing them back and forth and meet people. So you can meet, kids, even if you're in rural Texas, like my co-founder grew up in really rural Texas, and he was super into engineering as a kid. This would be a way for him to make tons of friends who are into the same topics as him. Or me, I was really into starting businesses on the internet. And so I always thought it'd be cool to have somewhere I could go to meet people like that. You'll see Alan Tang, friend of the pod right here, posting some content about the course that they've launched. They run these really cool game-based programs that teach kids about teamwork and problem solving. And so he goes in here and promotes the different courses to get kids to see it. And so this is a way for, if you're an education creator or an educator, this is how you recruit your own students, and you market directly to kids, not to parents. That's really important to us, that kids are actually the true customer of education products. We think if that's true, the kid really is in the driver's seat and we market to them, then they're going to be super excited about everything you're posting. And yeah, so you'll see all this cool content about the solar system and what's it like in life. And this is from the JPL, the NASA JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And so you can watch this guy's content and think he's really great and go take courses with him on how we're going to monetize the solar system, or how we could actually set up a civilization on Mars. And so you can mess with that. And so anyways, this is a feed of content you can use to get inspired, to find cool stuff, to meet people who are into the same stuff as you. And one way to think about it is a feed that makes you smarter instead of dumber. And so I think a lot of people are frustrated with TikTok and with YouTube Shorts and with Instagram Reels and kind of the impact they have on kids. And so we're imagining, what does it look like to have a feed that really is aspirational and puts really amazing stuff in front of your kids? And so anyways, that's product number one, is this feed. So all sorts of things go into the feed. The second product is these courses. And so there are tons of, like, hundreds of courses on Recess, everything from team strategy math games to traditional Addison Academy courses where you're going to go through the most difficult problems from Phillips, Exeter, and famous private schools in the US, to Minecraft game design, to pretending like you're a mini organism existing and you have to figure out how to evolve and become a multi-celled organism and then become, a plant or an animal. And you play as this organism. So it's a really immersive way to study biology and engineering. And there's everything: Filmmakers Club, Intro to Physics, coding, game design, learning how to write your own stories, publish YouTube videos. And so no matter what you're interested in as a kid, you can come here and find something really cool. And then the second cool part about it that's really different from OutSchool and the rest of the things that your kids might do for online education is they make friends. And so they can add these kids as friends. They'll actually see what their friends are going to. And so, for example, I have a bunch of friends in the squads class, a bunch of friends in this Factorio class, and you can decide to co-register with them. And so that's a cool way for kids to discover new type of topics and to make sure that no matter what they're joining, they always have a friend in their class. So they feel nice and comfortable and get situated right away. Those are the two main things. I'll pause for a second.
Yeah. So you described it to me a little bit like a marketplace for learning, and it's an opportunity for where people can go, parents, and they can do, there's free ones, there's paid for ones, there's samples, there's synchronous stuff, there's asynchronous stuff, and I know we'll dig into some of this as well. But essentially, Recess is a place where whatever young people want to learn, they can go and learn in a way that's normalized for them using a feed. And then obviously there's communities and all the courses and projects that go with that. Is that a fair enough space and understanding?
Yeah, totally. It's a marketplace with tons of expert-led classes. And they're really, like this guy is a professional 3D designer. Yeah. So it's, no matter what you're interested, there's kind of a course and a community that matches that.
And the other bit that sits there is, I suppose, it's about a secure place as well, because it's not just you going into the Wild West of these are the places that you've talked about, and they can be with there's no quality assurance. You might worry about the content that your young person might be accessing. It's a different, that's part and parcel of what you're trying to achieve here as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can show you kind of through. We spent the first 6 months building a ton of moderation tech so that parents can make sure what their kid is exposed to on the internet matches their values. And so you can come through and it's a pretty, you answer a lot of questions about, I want my kid I'm comfortable with them having total free speech. I don't want them engaging with content that is political. I don't want them engaging with content that is religious or anti-religious. And so you can kind of come in here and talk about what is important to you, and we'll curate a digital environment for your kid that matches your value system as a parent. So we're trying to really build like a companion to help turn the computer into something really amazing for your kid. And yeah, we do that through a bunch of different ways, but big marketplace of cool stuff. And yeah, every kid gets safety checked twice. So we do identity verification both on the parents and then on the kids multiple times before they can actually join the platform.
And I know that there'll be lots and lots of questions, and we can go into. I thought it was really important to start there, because sometimes you see these and you go, "Oh no, what does that mean?" So for those people who are in a, yeah, but what about safety? What about this? that's been front and center in the design of this, that it's thinking about a safe space for learners. And so
and we actually artificially slowed our growth rate. So for anyone's, we purposefully said no to a lot of customers for a long time because we weren't sure we could handle, we wanted to make sure that at 50 kids, at 100 kids, at 200 kids, that we could do a really good job. And so we keep track of our growth rate and make sure we're not growing too fast, so that we can make sure every kid is like a great experience and really is in this cool world they can be free in.
In terms of the guides that you talked about, is the guides to just guide them to the content that they want to deliver, or is there people that can facilitate the thought process of the young people to then, because sometimes they're stifled by too much choice, and yes, you want to make them be able to make that choice, but also sometimes it's the guardrails and the support and the facilitation of, how can we support them a little bit better with the choice that they've got without just telling them what to do, I guess.
I want to pull up, we're working on a cool thing for this now, but yeah, the decision fatigue is a big thing we think about, and plotting a progression for yourself and for your kid that kind of takes you somewhere over time. The new thing that's coming out very soon will be every family is going to get matched to a concierge. And so that concierge will pay really close attention to your kid and will know about them personally and will be available for you to talk to as a parent. And they'll help navigate all this and whittle it down and help make a plan. We call them progression plans for, today my kid is super into playing Roblox and Minecraft, and it looks like they're really into art and 3D design. How can we take their interest in playing games and making structures in Minecraft and turn those into real hard skills? And so we'll help them plot a course from, starting with maybe the Minecraft build hour, Minecraft creative mode masterclass. And we'll kind of level up where then they'll play, different architecture games, and they'll work on Skitty Skylines, and then they'll actually go in and learn 3D design. Can't spell. I don't know how to spell. Let's see if I'm sure it's 3D. And so they can come in and learn 3D design and spline. And so we'll chart them this course from whatever they're interested in today to where they really want to get to. And we're really, really, really good at engineering. I would say that's our core focus and has been our core focus. So we'll take kids from liking to play Minecraft to wanting to make their own games to learning how to write basic programs in Python and JavaScript to building full-fledged apps and launching them on the App Store. And so that's a big thing. How do you go from my interests today to something I'm excited about and not get overwhelmed by so many choices? If that explains it.
It does. And I'm okay. So we've dived straight in to Recess, and you've got all these projects. You've got gamified spaces. You've got learners that can whatever they want to learn, whether it's 3D modeling, whether it's video, whether it's art, whether it's and you can see lots and lots of things. Make your own stuff. Whatever it's here now. If I just ask us if we can just take a step back into this space, and I know that you'll probably use this through an example, but we on the podcast, and obviously if any of you are coming to the Edufuturist Uprising in June in Manchester, you've heard us talking, and this is definitely going to come up in that conversation, but you've heard us talking over the last few months about this conversation about pick and mix. And the future of education is likely to be pick and mix. And what we're seeing is that what we've seen up until this point has been bricks and mortar schools. So you're either all in a bricks and mortar school, or you're all in on an online option and homeschooling. And it'd be cool to explore some of this anyway. But I know that you told me that 3.5 million young children in the US homeschooled currently. UK numbers are going through the roof as well. So parents are making a choice. And I know that there is still some equity conversations, and that'll definitely come up in conversation today, I'm sure. But one of the phrases is that it doesn't need to be an either or. It doesn't need to be that you've got to do full online learning and you've got to do full homeschooling and you've got to or you've got to be in the classroom. What we're talking about here is, and this is the bit that excites me as a parent, and I wish that this would come out before I had children, is that parents are getting autonomy and agency and young people are getting autonomy and agency about, and you talked about that very, very early on, so that rather than it being dictated to, that the quality of your education and what you learn and how you learn it is determined by your postcode or how much money you've got in your pocket. There's a shift here which allows parents to go a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and that's powerful. And that's what when you talk to me about recess, that's what resonated with me, because obviously we've been talking pick and mix, Edufuturist conversation. We've been talking about agency and choice, and then actually feels like what you're trying to build here is the practical outworking of some of that conversation.
Yeah, and I think they need to be, it's a lot to juggle 3 different classes and 5 different software subscriptions and a school enrollment. And so I think them being all in one platform is really nice. And actually you want there to be kind of a cohesive story across your pick and mix, right? So if you're learning about teamwork and collaboration skills in Colab, and you're also learning about coding, I'm just going to pick coding, and you're learning about coding and how to make your own projects, very soon you're going to want to put together a team to make a game or to make a website, and you're going to need an artist, and you're going to need you'll need an artist, and you'll need a sound effects person, and you'll need a programmer, and you'll need a storyteller, and those people all need to come together. And I think you want the things you're learning in Colab and the things you're learning in coding class to be combined for that kind of experience. And so I think there's something really nice about having one central platform where what your kid is doing is all connected, and as a parent you can keep track of it, and you can kind of like tell this story about who they become over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of their life, and how do you prepare them, not just by I'm going to pick this math software and that coding software and this, and having it be cozy. Yeah, and that's our goal, is to be the place where if you make a cool education product, you can come here and find lots of excited, eager users for your product. And if you're a family who's dipping into pick a mix, dipping into homeschooling, you're one of those new 3.7 million kids in the US, this fast growing breeze, we make it really easy for you to find all the great stuff. You don't have to go doing like 10s and 20 hours of research and try and figure out what is out there. It's just all in one place for you.
Yeah, and it's also that ability where not only are you pushing the choice and all of those bits, but you're also putting in that quality assurance piece that actually, as you build something, you can't always be the person who plays God and says, I ratify everything. But actually,
Yes.
there is like the App Store or like the Android Store and Play Store and everything else, where actually it's been through testing and it's been through quality assurance to ensure that all of the things that you would expect, they've at least met a benchmark. And I think that's really, really key on everything else. It's not a case of we hold a standard and you give us more money and you get on the platform. It's actually the quality of the delivery and the quality of the content that's actually been quality assured, rather than how much money somebody can pay to be on the platform.
Yes. Yeah, and if you remember, before the iPhone came out, you download software to your computer, you're just getting viruses left and right. And yeah, I think there's something similar here on quality assurance, background checks, all of these things that can give you total confidence to go try stuff and let your kids be free. I'm really big on the kid freedom stuff. But yeah, I think that's right. And we are, yeah.
But it's not just freedom, crazy freedom. That's what this is where it's freedom within guardrails. It's freedom so it's agency. Nobody is stupid enough just to say, okay, Wild West, go and do what you want.
Yes.
Go and play on the train tracks. Go and play on the motorway. Like we don't. As parents, we have that moral responsibility. As educators and responsible ed tech, but we're in that space. But and I think that ties to that comes from obviously your background. And I wonder if that's worth just exploring a little bit, a bit more, like your background in terms of your educational experience, and then what drives this? Because there's a driver, right? That yes, we can look at the practicalities, and I think we'll still keep digging into that. Maybe talk to us a little bit of the driver.
Yeah, and really fast. I'm a huge fan of Montessori, like I think probably most listeners on this podcast are. But I think her big insight was a curated environment. There were lots of great insights about how to be a great adult and role model and mentor to young children. But a big part of what she did was, we're going to curate the environment. I'm going to choose the toys. You can't bring in your own toys from home. I'm going to choose the toys. We're going to design the layout of the space to be really nice and welcoming to kids. They're going to be able to reach everything, right? Nothing's going to be out of reach. And because she curated that environment really properly, that's what gave the kid freedom. That's what lets them choose what toy they're going to play with. Because every toy in that room, has been checked by her to have really high quality cognitive development benefits. And so we're trying to build something similar for the computer, where you no longer have anxiety about your kid doing screen time. But in fact, you look at it and look at this like outstanding thing that this wonderful, powerful tool is made available to your kid, and the best stuff is put in front of them. So the quick little bit on, I think the freedom, it comes through curated environment, right? Through being really intentional about what kind of stuff your kids can use. And then, my background, I was a kid who hated school growing up and was ditching lunch to go buy pizza and resell it to the rest of the kids for, 2 times markup. And started lots of businesses, played this game called World of Warcraft a lot, which was this big world where you could take on a character and have this whole background and bio, and there was societies you could join and communities you could join, and I got really, really into that. And was just constantly starting businesses, both in the game worlds and in the real world. And then when I turned 17, I moved to China. I dropped out of high school and moved to China for a year. I lived in Beijing, kind of traveling around, learning Chinese, having fun, trying to figure out how to start businesses in China, which is actually kind of hard. And then went to college and studied statistics and math and machine learning mostly. It was kind of the era of machine learning starting to get popular. And started a company with my brother, moved out to Silicon Valley, raised money from a bunch of venture investors. And at the end of that, realized that I had no sense of purpose. That up until I was 24, the only thing I knew was make money. Make money, make money, make money. Make as much money as you can. I remembered being a kid and feeling no freedom and looking at money as a source of freedom. If I had money, I could make my own decisions. My parents couldn't threaten me with, what I couldn't do by not getting allowance. I could go buy the food I wanted. And so I saw money as freedom. And so that's all I pursued from 10 or 11 until 24. And then 24, my brother and I leave this company, and I had no framework for knowing what I wanted to do next. I just felt lost. I wasn't interested in chasing money for money's sake anymore. And so I was looking for some sense of purpose. And when I looked back on my own childhood, there was this really consistent theme of, I was a curious kid who liked working hard and was constantly hustling and would reading tons of books, but didn't like school. And if there's a kid like me who really loved to work hard and read lots of books, that kid should like school. They're supposed to enjoy education. And so I had this personal experience of like, wow, there's so many kids out there like me, and I need to make something for them. And then the second thing that helped me derive purpose was, what's the point of all this? And like, how can my time be useful to other people? How can I just be a member of society, a good citizen, someone who gives more than they take? And when I tried to go through the different problems I could work on, whether it was AI or trying to work on new energy sources or whatever, I realized that if everybody in the world was smarter, more capable, more competent, more excited to work, that would be a much bigger impact than me working on any individual problem. And so, the combination of my own personal experience, feeling purpose for a short while, and wanting to try and do something big, led me to, that's the reason for this. And no question, I was a little bit of a rebellious kid and had trouble with teachers growing up. And so I wanted to build something that I thought taught more kids to think independently and have a bit more freedom. So there's some part of me that's a little bit rebellious and is doing this to kind of get back at all those times I felt slighted as an 11-year-old.
I do love that.
Yes, absolutely get back at the teachers by creating, but by not getting back at them, by creating better education and better education experiences as the kind of finger up in the air to them.
And better jobs for them, I think.
Yeah.
I think they want to teach kids who are really excited to be in the room. And they want to teach things they're really excited about.
And in a way that excites them. Like, it's that, isn't it? Like, you said you have a passion for reading and studious. Ben is definitely a reader. I like an audiobook because I struggle reading. But it all goes through that whole thing but I really disengaged in school because of the methodology, because of how it was approached, everything else. But still, you've just, the story that you've just told in regards to, I did this and I did, people go, wow, really successful. But actually, it's in despite of the education system that we were successful. Nothing really that has got you up to here, apart from the passion to want to change it based on your negative experience, has driven you to do this. But none of the skills, it's basically the anti-school that has led you here. All of the stuff that's driven you to this point has been all of the learning outside of the learning experience, or what is the formal learning experience. And what you're saying is all of that stuff, that entrepreneurial spirit, the stuff that I've done, the being able to, the choice and everything else. I want to try and at least put a little bit of formal guardrails into it to try and guide people a little bit. Not the rigidity of creating something exactly the same, but online, actually create something very, very different to give people better experiences, which is the thing that stood out from that what a journey, got to that point and then gone. And also, when people are in education, I'm guessing it's exactly the same in the US, we don't really do a good job in regards to not saying what you want to be in the future. What do you want to do right now, and how? And I know that this is on the video, isn't it? In terms of the work, but saying what do you want to do now, drive that passion, and it might really transform what you do in the future, rather than thinking what are the job roles that are already out, that exist, and we keep saying the jobs that these students will go into don't exist. Well, why do we keep driving people down the path to then go, you need to do this, because if you want to be a doctor, you do this, and if you want to be an accountant, do this. I'm not being funny, but good luck, accountants, because I think transactionally AI will probably take a lot of that work away from you. If we focus on jobs of now and guide people in through their qualifications based on that, we don't drive passion at all.
Yes.
And I think you talked about before we came on air, and the difference between your grade point average in your electives compared to what have been and we don't do that in education, even at university in the country. You basically get what you're given. There is a couple of bit of selectives, but generally out of a rigid 5 program, then you have to do this and you have to do this. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. And I think all these things, like, your story is super inspiring to me. From, being someone who struggled in school and doing constantly feeling like that's not sure if it's the right place for you, to then becoming a CEO. It's certainly, that seems like it's a in spite of. And yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people. And then what you were saying around what do you want to do right now versus what do you want to do in the future? I mean, I remember being a kid and getting asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I hated that question. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know, but I know that I want to go try and backflip off that diving board right now. Like, that's really interesting to me. I know I want to go build some rocket that's going to explode. And yeah, when I talk to all of my friends and talk to these kids all the time, the things they're doing for fun in their free time are really high signal about what they ended up doing as adults. So like for me, I was starting businesses in games in the real world. I had other friends who were spending a ton of time writing short stories and are now screenwriters, right? And I think there's this really common theme of like what you do, your passions. I don't love the word passion. I prefer the word purpose. But the things that you're excited to do and kind of passionate about as a kid become your life's purpose as an adult. And so how do we really lean into those instead of trying to give you some different framework about what you want to do when you're older? And yes, that is a big part of Recess, is the kids are kind of creating their own self-narrative and their own path, and it should look different than ever. There's not a single kid on recess whose current education lines up perfectly with another kid. Out of hundreds of kids, there's not one who has the same breakdown of experiences. And I bet even when we have 10,000 kids or 50,000 kids, that's still true. Everyone's is going to be slightly different. And that's how you create a version of yourself that has unique values to bring society and the marketplace. And there's something really it's totally unsurprising to me that kids come out of secondary, out of university, and don't know what they want to do with their lives. They all had the same experiences. We just put them through 18 years of identical education and then say, okay, now choose what you want to do with the rest of your life. Good luck. And it's like, you need to take all of these small decisions and try things and develop a unique set of skills. That's what gets you to the point where you know what you want to do. And so there's something missing there that I think is cool.
I agree. Like, we regularly say this one size fits all means one size fits none. We talk about the end of average, all them conversations of like, if you steer to the average, it doesn't actually fit anybody, and all the stuff that Todd Rose talks about in the book, The End of Average. Literally, it's just a perfect analogy that we are trying to teach to the middle. It's just boring. And three of us on here, obviously we've got our experiences of education, and we've all got probably a not dissimilar experience of education in terms of we have achieved despite it, but I was maybe different than you two in the sense that my academic conversation wasn't a challenge academically, it was a challenge behaviourally, and so therefore, and I don't mean that, I'm not saying that you two had the challenge academically. What I'm saying is that my school, I'd end up doing well, but actually everything I'm doing now is no relationship to that, and that's okay. But I do say on a relatively regular basis, why, if I'd have just got this sooner, if I'd have had this opportunity sooner, what would have happened? And I've been interviewing today for a deputy head teacher for the primary school where I'm a chair of governors, and it's class conversations, but they were talking because my daughter was on this student panel yesterday with these and these people didn't know that it was my daughter when they were talking about the kids were so articulate, like they know what they want to do as they're growing up, and one of the children, I think she was called Martha, and everybody looked at me at this point because they knew it was who it was, said she wants to be an investment banker. And I was like, she went, I couldn't believe it that she said she wanted to be an investment banker, and that she knew why, and she talked about why, and it wasn't just about the money, it was about the fact that she's good at maths and she wanted to do something that was going to, and I said, yeah, and it just made me think that what are we doing now to prepare Martha for that if she wants to go down that route? My eldest daughter is now talking about becoming a medic in the army. Like what like that's really what can we do to prepare that conversation? And I think what we're all talking about on this space is that young people, learners, are probably more ready than we think, and we don't need to spoon feed this, because information is becoming increasingly, or access to information is becoming ubiquitous. Like, we don't have to keep saying it needs to be this amount of Shakespeare, this amount of this amount. Like, come on, we live in a very different world, and let's come up today. It feels like I've gone ranty, but you know, I think you know where I'm talking about.
Yeah. No,
and so in that space, like recess is genuinely one of the options where, because of our experience and the fact that it wasn't the one size fits all, hasn't fit really, we want to do something different. And I suppose you mentioned a vision early on. It's like, what's the vision here? You talked about like that prepared environment, Montessori. I know that you're super influenced by Seymour Papert, by the way.
Yeah, I go nuts for that guy.
His books arrived.
Oh, great!
His books arrived.
That's
So it's there. It's there. That's I've got it, and that was on based on what you had that conversation. So I'm super excited to. I've read his stuff, but super excited to read that. So yeah. So what's the vision? Where what do you see this becoming?
I think the vision that I want for my kid, and it's easier for me to talk about like kind of like childhood in totality. And I think one thing I believe is that even the way we think about education today is really limited. We think about it from happening between 9 and 4 and being in these 5 subjects. And, you know, learning is happening every minute of the day. The kid's learning just as much at 6:30 as they are at 9 o'clock. And some people will say way more. And they're learning when they sit down for dinner and you have conversation with them. And they're learning when they are brushing their teeth. Like it's a nonstop process where they're picking stuff up. And if you look really young kids, like for babies, this is totally obvious, right? Every minute they spend in the world, they're learning something about reality. They're poking up against reality and developing. And so where's the vision go for this? It's breaking down this concept that education is a set of topics that we download onto the kid's brain. That we remove that idea. And instead that the kid explores reality and finds their own definition of what they're trying to do. So my dream situation is I actually delete school. I want to get rid of school as a concept and replace it with, I think what I want for my kid is, I wake up at whatever time and have a little breakfast with them. And then I put them in probably a self-driving car and they get taken to a beautiful building out in the forest or out in a big grassy knoll with, sports courts nearby and a pottery studio in the back and something else. And the kids just live and explore in this like very cool kind of like camp-like experience with tons of great role models nearby, mixed ages. And yeah, they're out there exploring. And then throughout the day, they sit down at the computer and do really rigorous intellectual work. And particularly around making things. I definitely have an obsession with learning how to make things. And what I would like Recess to be is the router for all of that computer work. I think lots of people are going to build amazing physical locations, but the computer can, when you scroll through X or TikTok, it knows a lot about what you like and what you're interested in, right? Your feed, no one's feed looks the same as another person's feed. Everyone's feed looks a little bit different. It's unique to you and it's unique to your preferences. And right now, I think those have gotten weaponized. The goal of those feeds are to sell you consumer products. That's how the feed is organized. The goal is to sell you consumer products. And I imagine one where instead it's a feed with the goal to realize your potential. And there's this computer algorithm that's, paying attention to what videos do you like to watch? What kinds of things do you like to build? What do you understand? What do you not understand? How far along are you in math? How far along are you in your literacy? And is just surfacing the most interesting materials and tools to you it can every part of the day. And just by interacting with this thing, it's like the peak, you become wonderfully competent and intelligent. And then I think you need great physical locations to give kids a cool childhood. I think you're definitely supposed to be hanging out with other kids and playing sports and doing art and doing theater to have a cool childhood.
And also throw in there, if it's close enough, that communal eating spaces that they all have breakfast together. The parents that are working online and creatives and doing all that kind of stuff can come and have dinner and drop in and support also the ecosystem of it. The really interesting thing in terms of that algorithm bit.
Yeah.
So, like, me and Ben talk about echo chambers. You see often from your social media people that post because of the people you follow and everything else.
Yes.
How do you potentially give opportunities that they might not be aware of by using an algorithm that is tailored towards guiding them through their likes and their purpose, but also then giving a nod to, you've probably not looked at this before, but have you considered this? You might not like it, but also there are other people that are in this space that are enjoying this. Is there a consideration around the driving of algorithm and the thread to be based on their purpose, but also throwing in that actually people of your age and outside of your little friendship groups are also liking these bits as well. Have you considered those as because otherwise it becomes yes, you're not selling them products as a consumer, but you're also giving them opportunities that they might not have realised because of that. Then they've got the blinkers on, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the concept of feed is like a spectacular discovery engine. Like I definitely am constantly seeing new things I've never seen before in mine. I agree with you. Mine are really narrow, filtered down to a tiny subset of topics. I think there's like on the back end like math ways to do this. Like I think it's for example, you can like the different platforms actually do this different amounts. And so YouTube is has like a very short algorithm, and so it's paying attention to like what you just watched, and so it's going to show you lots of content about what you just watched. Twitter has a very long algorithm, so or X has a very long algorithm. It's adding up everything you've done over the last 6 months and deciding what to show you next. And so there's some ways to tweak kind of what gets recommended to you. I think one easy way is you can increase the randomness, or like every 5th post, every 6th post, show them something that's totally outside their domain. And if they interact with it and engage with it, show them more content like that. And if they don't, show them less content like that. And so I think there will be behind the scenes ways to do it. And then I think what you'll want as a parent is actually to have some influence is like let's say your daughter's on there and she's constantly, you might have an idea about something you want them to see and they're not currently interested in it and they don't watch any content about it. And today what you'll do is you might pull them over and pull up a YouTube video and try and show it to them and sit down next to them. I think in the future you could actually like write in natural language. I think she really might like seeing this kind of stuff. Can you make sure you show her all the coolest content in this field? And actually then, influence, if you're going to put these kids in these feeds, someone is deciding what content they see. And I think there needs to be a lot more power shifted back to the parent about how, what is the internet, putting in front of my kid? And so there's 2 ways to do it. One, I think, is this like kind of like randomness generator, or you could very specifically design an algorithm that pulls in content that's not in your niche. And the other is give parents natural language, really easy ways to influence what their kids seeing online.
So, okay. I'm not sure if it's an elephant in the room, but I feel like if it's not an elephant in the room and what some people who are listening or watching this are thinking about is, okay, this all sounds lovely and like a great concept. I know it's not a concept for you because you've literally had children doing this just before we went on air. It was live. We got to see a little bit of a walking through the environment and seeing it actually working. Some kids playing chess, some kids having a conversation in there, some kids coding, some like literally. Some people are listening and be going, well, this is all okay, but school is childcare. Yes. And I say this a lot. We know that it's we've talked about it being a babysitting service, and the reason why we can't or we haven't had, not I said can't, I don't like the word can't, haven't had real revolution, reform in education is likely because it's an economic conversation. So the reason why we have schools between these hours is because so that parents can go out and contribute to the economy and work. Now, that means that if we are to flip this, and we saw this through the pandemic, most people, like, and most parents are like, I could not think of anything worse than homeschooling. But like this idea that the children and the adults were in the same space, there wasn't somebody else looking after them, responsible for making sure that they learn something, and actually it offsets and it ensures, this is the bit, right? It ensures that those students who are maybe not coming from a good home life are going to get a better uplift, and it's that social mobility piece. But realistically, is this something that can be done at scale? And if so, what does that look like? We had a bit of a conversation about this previously, but how does it work? Because physically it looks very, very different than what we're seeing.
Yeah. I think my take on this is you need to demonstrate something way better. It needs to be categorically better than the status quo. It's going to be painful. Like being on the fringes or being on the frontiers of doing something new, I think is always very difficult. And so until that looks, much, much better than the existing experience, no one's going to do it. You can use tons of examples, like people migrating from England to the Americas, really, in the early days of the US. And being able to have a huge section of land that was highly productive, that you had total control over, was something that was so cool, so exciting that tons of people want to come over. And basically, I just think you need to make something way, way better than exists. It can't be 10% better. It can't be 40% better. It has to be orders of magnitude. Your kid has to wake up jumping up and down with joy every single day. Your kid has to be progressing along traditional math and literacy standards at 2-3 grade levels a year. You have to see the performance excel way past it. And I'm not sure how you feel about standards, but I think for the time being, to make this, to show that new models can work and are much better, you actually need to go and play the same games that the schools are playing. And we have tons of kids on recess. We have kids who are 9 years old and doing Riemann sums in calculus. And we have 10-year-olds who are moving, 3 grade levels a year. They're all in high school math. And 11-year-olds running YouTube channels with 800,000 views on a video. And I think you're going to need to produce a ton of outcomes like this and see the kids jumping up and down and be super happy all the time, and show how you can make it really lightweight for the parent. And it doesn't actually take a ton of work for them to give their kid something outstanding and amazing. And it'll be small, but small. 1% of kids globally is like a ginormous, it's 20 million kids, right? So even if it's fringe and it's still unusual and it's a small number of parents that want to go take this leap and try to give their kid something much better than what's out there today, that's still like plenty big to go demonstrate and show off a new market. And so I think our goal, can this be done at scale? I don't know. I don't know how to do it at scale yet. I started off doing it for 5 kids and just giving them like all of my time and for no payment, and just giving, for 6 months, I just spent only time with 5 kids and tried to really help them grow. And then we figured out how to do it for 20. And then we built some tools that helped those kids match up with their friends, and found great tutors from around the internet, some of the best mentors. And now we know how to do it for a few hundred. And I think this year we're going to try and figure out how to do it for, 1,000, maybe 2,000. As soon as we feel like we can't do it and we're not delivering something exceptional, we'll kind of pause and we'll stop growing. But yeah, I don't know. But I know we know how to do it for more than we're doing it today. And we have some general ideas about how it scales. I think a lot of it has to do with how you get connected to other kids and bringing together great role models for your kids, and having a big marketplace of spectacular role models who care about your kids and have the tooling to keep up to date with them and whatnot. So no, I don't know how to do it for 2 million kids, but
no,
yeah, but
no, we can't. But sorry, Steve, go on.
No, go on, Ben.
So I know that we talked previously about, there are some states in the US, for example, 21 out of 50. Is it? Did you say 21 out of 50?
Yeah, it's
they're allowing that delegated.
Yeah, it's changed. It's 21 states, 17 states in the US, depending on how you count it, are implementing something called school choice, school vouchers, or ESAs, education savings accounts. And in those states, if you take your kid out of public school, the state will give you $10,000 a year to spend on your kid's education. And you can do it. So it's government provided funds. So even if you're a super low income family and you're in a zip code or a postcode with a terrible school, you'll have an opportunity to go try and design something better for your kid. And it's really, really big in Florida, Arizona, Colorado. I mean, this year, I think it's going to be about $5 billion are available that's never been available before. So it's a really good time to be working on this problem.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. So the interesting bit is, I think it was Texas.
Yeah. Texas is in a big fight about this now.
Yeah. So and I think Dallas specifically, based on some of the friendships I have, and some, that if they take the £10,000 a year, is that what they pay the state education to deliver education? Because the challenge is if they're paying more to private or any other outside of state, it then heightens and it increases. But actually, ultimately, if it's fair, as long as that 10,000 goes in whatever choice you have, as long as it's distributed exactly the same, whether it's state, whether it's online, whether it's whatever it is, then ultimately it's fair game. And my choice would be, and I always say that, like FE and higher education, when people have a choice, those people have a decision to make of which organisation they go with. And I always say, imagine what school would look like if those parents and those children were unhappy or were unsatisfied or whatever, and had a choice to move that money and everything else rather than where they're located. And that is what the US is doing.
Starting to.
Yeah, or starting to. And I think it's really interesting. The challenge is, I wouldn't pick local education.
No,
I don't think.
that's actually that's one of the main criticisms happening in the debate, is that the local schools are losing enrollment really fast and that they're shutting down local schools. And I totally empathize with that concern, right? Because those schools are a mainstay of their community. But they're losing, right? As soon as people have the choice, they're going, not that one. And in most other spheres, if you went to two different restaurants and one had way worse food and one had way better food and was cheaper, you'd go to the place with the way better food and the cheaper price, and no, you wouldn't be upset that the worst restaurant with the bad food and the bad service was closing down. And what's so weird about this is, like, something that's really weird that's happening, for example, in Florida, is the schools are closing, but the new schools that are opening are run by the teachers of the old school. So the people teaching your kids are the same, but the product is much better. And I think the point here to make is, most of the teachers for your kids are spectacular humans who really care about your kids and want to do something great. They're bottlenecked and bogged down by the system and bureaucracy that they're in and all these requirements they have to meet. And so when you open it up, it's not like the teachers are losing jobs. Actually, the teachers make more money. They open up new schools and they often increase their salary by 50, 60%. And the kids are achieving better results and the parents have a much closer relationship with the teachers. And so I think there's something fun. That's really interesting to me, that when you open up school choice, it's still, a lot of times it's the same teachers, just when they're allowed a little bit more freedom and can do something their own way, they deliver something much better. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm really glad that the US is opening up school choice. It's still pretty small. I mean, $5 billion a year is actually a tiny portion of the market, even though it's ginormous to an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and to be fair, people are voting with their feet. They're voting with their feet, and it's increasing. It might not be super fast. In the relative scheme of things, it is.
Yeah.
And what's exciting is that there are people that are genuinely trying to find an alternative and are creating an alternative. And the more people, in the same way of adoption of any technology or any spaces, the whole thing is that once you get to that peak of, like, you've hit a point of, it makes it cheaper, makes it more accessible, it normalizes it. You only need one or two people in a community to start going, I'm not sure about this, and it either does one of two things: it raises the standard of the schooling, which is a benefit initially, a net benefit, and then ultimately it moves people into this new space and it creates that innovation. It's when we've got this this lack of innovation that there's a phrase, it's not mine, but I love this idea of change happens when the pain of the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So that's the only reason why change happens. And so if there's it's all about pain. So is it painful enough? And if it's not painful enough, then we probably won't change. But the pain of staying the same is, I think we're getting to that crux point.
I mean, in the US, there's a few things that are causing huge pain. One, you're seeing our math and reading levels drop below the rest of the world and fall continuously. I mean, I think the 8th grade literacy rate, people who are reading at their grade level, is like 37%. That's one source of pain, is that they're not doing their core job. The second one in the US, which is really unique to the US, is safety. Like, school shootings are like a very legitimate problem in the US. And so, I think the idea of sending your kid to school and feeling like there's a non-zero chance they get shot that day is really terrifying to a lot of families. And the third one is something that was certainly true for me. You drop your kid off at school and they're crying and they just don't want to get out of the car. And I think that's a pretty hard emotional experience to have, to go drop your kid off somewhere and they're just begging, please don't leave me here. And I think that's like more than 10% of kids out there are experiencing that, where they're just like, please don't, And so that's pain. And then you present them with an alternative and their kids are running up to them and pulling on their leg going, Mom, look what I made. Dad, look what I made. Look at this thing I did. Look at these cool people I met. That's just night and day apart. So yeah, I think the pain in the US is getting big enough now that everyone's like, let's do something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we come to the end, we always go into 3 quickfire questions.
Good, I like that.
So,
hot seat.
I'll start, then Ben, and then I'll finish if that's all right, Ben. But what's one outdated education practice that we need to abandon?
That's a good question. One outdated education practice we need to abandon. Oh, this is too good of a question. I'm thinking of all a million answers. I got a stupid small answer, which is, let's let the kids go to the bathroom when they want to go to the bathroom. That's a pretty quick one.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we could go into that. How should we measure learning success beyond grades?
I think that one's really complicated. I mean, I'm actually a really big fan of standards. I think I'm very unusual in the alternative education space, that I actually think particularly literacy and math standards are really good benchmarks. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of measuring them along those standpoints. I think the measurement question is really hard, because the idea is there you have to measure something, right? I think on an individual level, it's really easy. It's like qualitative. You kind of know it when you see it, either as a parent or as a teacher, if the kid is having growth. Mine would probably be this is a little bit too out there, but I think AI is going to be really, really, really excellent at analyzing how well kids have learned in very abstract ways. I tried out this test with a kid that I work with who's doing a ton of math work, but not really training for standardized tests. So, for example, he's super into like geometry proofs. And he doesn't even know they're geometry proofs, by the way. He's playing this game where he ricochets bullets and tries to hit people. But what he's doing, the work he's doing, is actually kind of like doing these geometric proofs. And there's no real test that I think you could run against that. But I had ChatGPT. I had the kid sit down and I wrote a prompt for ChatGPT to start quizzing him about his knowledge and his growth in this. And we do it like every couple weeks. And the thing produces me really nice qualitative and quantitative reports over like how well, how much the kid has improved in this and what kinds of proofs could he take on. Does he understand the Euler's thing? Does he understand this? What college course would he be ready for? And so there's something around like AI will be a way to break down standards and offer a new way to measure kids' knowledge and intellect and growth The third one is we need to invent new standards. That math and literacy are not supposed to be the only standards, and there are supposed to be other things. And I actually think, like, if you told me that, do you guys play any games? Video games?
Less so now, but I'm a Sonic the Hedgehog guy, really, if I'm honest.
I'll pick this game called Factorio, and it's really famous. Elon once tweeted, "I'm running Factorio IRL in real life." So it's this game where you build these factories that produce objects, and your goal is to you crash land on an alien planet. Your goal is to build a rocket and get off the planet. And Toby Lucky, who runs this company called Shopify, which is a really big company, says he'll hire any engineer who's beaten his Factorio skills. If you tell me that a kid has beaten Space Age in Factorio or has automated blue science packs, I immediately know a lot about how dedicated and thoughtful that kid is about engineering practices. Like, it's very, very high signal, right? Toby is willing to hire someone not based on grades, not based on test scores, not based on prior experience, just on performance in that game. So I think there are all these, or if you told me that a kid had, 10 million views on YouTube, that would be a very obvious signal about their ability to do things like write hooks and tell stories. And so, I don't know, I'm not sure yet, but my intuition is that we're going to come up with a much longer set of standards that aren't just math and literacy, that are going to measure how well your kid understands and is able to do things. So messy, but that's my answer.
One. What would one thing that you would want our listeners to remember?
Your kids are really smart. And the most important thing for them is that there's someone in their life who thinks they're the most special person on the planet. And that's the main one. My grandfather gave me that piece of advice. My brother was having his first kid, and my brother asked him, what's one piece of advice? And he said that, that kid's going to go through life and no one, you're the person who has to care about them more than anyone else in the world. And you're the person, they need someone to think they're the most special and they're spectacular and that they can do anything. And that's the most important job as parents. That's probably the last one. And then there's a random side little bit. So that's my one. The second one is, there's a really funny thing I've noticed with parents of kids in recess who, like, their kids are like 10, 12. Their concept of their kids always lags like a year or two behind their kid. Because they remember their kid's last 10 years of life, but you know what I mean? And so they like kind of average it all out in their head. And I'm the youngest in my family. Even now, I'm like, I go home and they'll tell me some story. They'll like talk about something from when I was 7. And so then that's so real. You know what I mean? And I think that's like a constant younger sibling pain, is that your parents always think you're younger than you are. So anyways, that's the last one. Your kids are probably more capable than you think they are.
Love it. There's so much in that. And I know that we could definitely keep these conversations going. And hopefully this is just the first of many. Ben, the work that you're doing at Recess and the vision and the passion to do something that changes us up is infectious, and something I'm really glad that we've been able to even have a look at. If people haven't checked out Recess, we'll put the link in the show notes. And we are super, super grateful for you joining us today, Ben. And long may this conversation continue. Keep doing what you're doing. Have a great rest of the day. We're going to go to bed probably soon because it's nearly 9 o'clock here. But thanks for coming on the Edufuturist podcast. And if you haven't yet got your tickets for the Edufuturist Uprising in Manchester in June, please do. I don't know why I say that. You don't even say that anymore. Edufuturist.com/uprising. We would love to see you there. Have a good one. Take care, everybody.
See you soon.